Hola, buongiorno. And we will start with the updates, which are, well, first of all, um, I am still quite heavy in work, but now I'm a bit more chilled out. I currently have to read this book, and it literally takes, I'm not even exaggerating, like 2 to 3 minutes to read per page, okay? So I'm not kidding, like, I'm doing my best to read, but and I don't even have distractions. I'm like in my room, I'm just I have my pencil and I have my highlighter, and it takes so long to read. Like, well, obviously the chapters are super long too, so that's not very motivating. But it's just, ugh, I cannot even. Okay, so I think probably the final topic I have for this episode. Well, it's still an amalgamation, an accumulation, a whatever you want to call it, a snowball of the things I want to say. Oh my gosh, I've been so close to the mic this whole time. Feels bad. Sorry, guys. I feel like rip to headphones users. UWU, whatever. I'm really getting off track. Um, so there's a lot of things that I've just been thinking that aren't really. They're kind of discombobulated thoughts. They're not quite full-fledged thoughts because it's like, I mean, it's like when can you find the appropriate time to talk about it, especially because of our recent events. But it's fine. It's I don't know. I feel like I'm acting very dramatic. It's really not that big of a deal. I think with time you learn that some things are just not meant to be or whatever. Again, it sounds very dramatic. It's really not that big of a deal. So the I'm just gonna read what I wrote down because I wrote it down like full sentences because I was like, oh, I should probably just put it all at one time. So I like to say that I'm a realist, that I'm very, I do things that are possible, and everything in my realm that I think of, I always do it because I know or I think that I can do it. But, and although I may act like that way in public, I feel like, or with just people, I am probably the biggest dreamer. Like, not the biggest, obviously, it's hyperbole, but, you know, at the end of the day, a dream won't come true. Dreams are only things that your mind has made up by mixing up the things that your conscious has had and like re-spitting it out into your subconscious. And obviously it's basically more like a brain vomit than anything, dreams, because it's like there's a bunch of stuff. Well, basically you're speaking to yourself though in your dreams. It's just you might feel conflicted about something, etc. Whatever. Dreams are a bunch of things. And I think, well, we made a video. We made an art project video recently, and it was about the what's it called, the attractiveness, the allure of the escapism in our world now more than ever, where you don't want to be in the present because right now it's not great. It's not fun. But I need to. I have found myself in a like rut where I'm always either fantasizing about another world or just thinking about the future constantly, when really I should be able to stay present and do all the things that I want to do right now, that I can do, instead of just passing, I don't know, 3 hours just doing nothing, just thinking about, oh, what if I did this? And the hypotheticals are very nice, but like I said, the dream will never come true if you don't return to reality. And so I think that's a big struggle for me. And I mean, maybe you struggle with this too, but it's just, I feel, even though this is not what I want to do, it just happens that way. And it's not me making excuses for myself. It just, it is what it is. I mean, oh, I wrote this down. The sobering reality that none of it was real and it will never be as easy as depicted in our imagination, TV shows, and even social media will cut the deepest. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I am sober because I don't take drugs or drink, but it's like when you get rooted back to reality and truth and what is in your life for real right now, it's not glamorous, it's not cute, because behind every great story, right, there's so much work, so much hard times, and that's what makes a person so interesting, right? But we always see what we want to see. So if we see somebody who, I don't know, maybe on Instagram you're like, oh, this girl's so rich. She has like a I mean, if you've seen Zinzin's recent post, like she has a Dior bag in it and she's wearing Doc Martens and this like I think it's for Love and Lemons dress and I was like, oh, she rich. And it's like it's not her fault for being rich. Her parents are rich and it's like, you know, why is that such a big deal, you know? And yet I found myself being like, oh, well, if I was that rich, I would just be able to do whatever I wanted. And it's like, well, but I'm not. So I have to just keep going because everybody's at a different spot. And that's part of, I said this at youth group, it's part of the human experience, right? The fact that individuality is both the common denominator and the thing that separates us the most from each other. Our individuality is what makes people like us and hate us. Our individuality, our sense of self, is the solution and the problem, where we might be focused too much on who we want to be and what we want to appear as. But also, if we don't want to, if we just want to morph into the background, that can quickly turn dark, right? Everything is a game of, what's it called? Moderation. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And then the next one was, it's wrong of me to think this, but sometimes I wish I wasn't so quote unquote normal, quote unquote stable. I was talking to Madame Robitaille and I was like, oh yeah, I've been just writing some stuff out, you know, just feeling my feels, you know. Um, and she said, wow, you're so stable and so healthy. And I was like, oh, sometimes I wish I wasn't, which is very wrong to think because obviously it's very hard for people who don't have healthy mentalities or whatever. But I found that the things that I want, and this is not saying for anybody who struggles with stuff, like I'm not saying this is what you do, but for me it's like I feel like it would be so easy to just blame my inability to achieve success or to reach my full potential and blame it on issues that I have or weaknesses I may have. Because, oh, well, that's not really me. What's really me is, oh, that's another thing that, like, in BoJack Horseman, they said, there's a quote that was from Diane Nguyen. She's a character who writes the book for BoJack, and she says, I don't really think that it's, well, she said it's good people, but whatever. She said, I don't really think that it's a good person on the deep, deep inside of us. I think we're just the actions we take. And I thought, I mean, at the time, I was like, what? But, like, you know, your intentions should matter. Although, I do see what she means, as in, even if you can blame it on, oh, well, look at my childhood, or look at my, uh, my experience in school, I was bullied, or blah, blah, that doesn't justify being bad. It might explain doing things that are wrong, but it doesn't you can't just say, "Oh, well, you know, I was abused as a child. That's why I want to kill people now." It's like, okay, we can reconcile that probably had a negative effect on you, on your brain development. But that doesn't mean you can just go around doing illegal stuff because of that, right? And that's why, oh, Gabby Hanna had like a mental breakdown this last week. Literally, I think she called it that. So I'm not, you know, misconstruing her. She just went off at everybody for no reason, and everyone was like, "Oh, seems like new music is getting dropped or whatever." Not that we've seen any of it yet, but she was like, "Oh, people just don't understand me because I'm neurodivergent," and I was like, "Girl, that's not why people don't like you." There's a lot of people who are neurodivergent that are very nice, very fun people. A bunch of my friends are not neurotypical. That doesn't mean that like that they act out in this way, that they insult people, call people narcissists, call them a B word multiple times, call them psychopaths. Like normal people don't, you know, bully people online. It's just like, and also she was like, oh, these are high school bullies, they're just trying to come after me, and it's like, but you're doing the bullying. And it's like nobody's blaming you for being neurodivergent. I feel like nobody even talks about her having ADD or whatever. It's like, that's not the conversation, Gabby. You're problematic because you only stir up drama when you have something to release. You also have like mental breakdowns much more often than before, because it used to be like during the fall when you said, oh, I have seasonal affective disorder, so I just get into scandals because my brain chemistry isn't working, which I can understand that, but it still doesn't justify it, you know? And now it seems like we're coming up in spring now. There's no time for you to be there's no hot girl summer for her anymore. I mean, whatever. I don't really care that much. It's just she really has an ego, a big ego, that in the way that, oh, in the Demi Lovato thing too, she went to a froyo shop and she's like, wow, cancel this, like, it was a mom and pop shop, it was like a small business, and she was like, oh, cancel this shop because they had diet options, but it was just because there was fat free or there was like no sugar froyo, because some people can't have sugar, like diabetic people. Some people can't have too much fat because of like probably their heart conditions. And now and she was like, well, I had a eating disorder, so it was very triggering for me. And I was like, okay, yeah, I understand that, but you're coming after a small business for trying their best to cater to a lot of people, and you just think that this was specifically attacking you. Like, how self-centered do you have to be to think that that was directed at you? It literally wasn't. It was for people who couldn't eat regular froyo. And she said, oh, I was so sad because I didn't get the froyo. But, like, I mean, come on. If you wanted it that bad, you could have gotten it. And I know that it's probably in your brain, like eating disorder stuff. But she literally went off at them saying, oh, it was so bad. And it's like, it almost ruined their whole business. Because they're not a big froyo shop. They're not like McDonald's or something where they could just, whatever, it's not just one, they have only one location. So the way that she reacted, it was just like, me, I'm not sorry for how I feel because I just feel this way, blah, blah, blah. And this is coming after she released like a documentary that I watched and I was like, oh, wow, that's really sad and upsetting, right? It seems that all of her, that documentary might have been more scripted than we thought, because seriously, when she's not going on script, when she doesn't have somebody telling her what to say, it's a whole other side of her that people are realizing. And I didn't have much of an opinion on Demi Lovato before, because it's just like, whatever. I like, she's a good singer, I guess, and that's all I had thought. But now it's like, ooh, why do you have to involve yourself in this way, So next up is blue, blue. Oh yeah. So I said I'm self-aware enough to realize that I will never amount to anything at this rate, but I don't have enough self-control to change any of that. The crippling fear of being impotent. I feel like that's not the right word though. The isolation and my lack of motivation has aggravated my current situation. Oh wow, she's a spoken word poet. She's an artist. She's just so tortured and I misunderstood. I feel like that's what I'm trying to say. It's just that I feel like I'm not really doing anything with my life, even though I'm 15 going on 16. I shouldn't be able to decide everything right now. It's just I'm sorry, I should probably say words to describe how I feel. It's like, what path am I on? Literally nothing. Finish Sec 5, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I want to do. And it feels like an awful lot of pressure to just put on us what we want to do in the next year. And also, like, in these trying times, we also have to figure out everything on our own without like friends that much to talk to. Not that I would talk to them that much, but at least when we were always at school, we were able to talk to each other in the lockers for some time, because we didn't have to leave about 2 minutes right after we show up at our locker. And we were also able to talk to her during lunch. We could see each other from different classes, all these things. So yeah. And then I saw this thing that I was like, true, agreed. It was this girl saying, those like TikToks where it's like, let's get one thing straight. It was one of those. And she was like, let's get one thing straight. I'm fat, not ugly. And I was like, the vibes. Yes, exactly. Um, yeah. The next one. Oh man, I'm going overtime, but I don't really care. I'm just so I can do everything myself. I saw this thing where it was like, hot girl summer, hot boy summer. Everyone talks about that, right? Your summer body or your tan, all these things. It's probably more for adults and stuff. Oh well, or older teenagers slash young adults type thing. But I mean, we're getting into older teenagers territory. By 16, you're like no longer 13, and you're closer to 18 than you were to 13. Yeah, and then it's like there is a certain problem with like quote unquote glow up culture because you're basically roasting yourself for how you looked before, but it's like eh, you know. And also, I remember somebody told me like uh I don't remember what it was actually. I don't know why I said that, but it was something about me being like unattractive. And I was like unattractive, and I was like, well, hopefully you don't see my role as just being to attract males in my direction because I don't. Shouldn't I be focusing on other things than what you think I should look like? And obviously that's kind of like feminist rhetoric or whatever for this third wave feminist stuff, but I do honestly believe that because it's like uh, and what do you want me to do about it? Yeah. So next up is, man, I literally don't know what I wrote here, so let's just pretend I didn't write that down. Okay, bye. I think that's it. There's no outro. I'm nearing the end of my 4th year. I feel like I've been lacking, crying too many tears. Everyone seemed to say it was so great, but did I miss out? Was it a huge mistake? I can't help the fact I like to be alone. It might sound kinda sad, but that's just what I seem to know. I tend to handle things usually by myself, and I can't ever seem to try and ask for help. I'm sitting here crying in my prom dress. I'd be the prom queen if crying was a contest. Makeup is running down, feelings are all around. How would I get here? I need to know. I guess I maybe had a couple expectations. Thought I'd get to them, but no I didn't. I guess I thought that prom was gonna be fun, but now I'm sitting on the floor and all I wanna do is run. I keep collections of maps up on my wall to try and stop myself from revealing it all. Affecting others is the last thing I would do. I keep to myself though I want to break through. I hold so many small regrets and what ifs down inside my head. Some confidence, it couldn't hurt me. My demeanor is often misread. I'm sitting here crying in my prom dress. I'll be the prom queen if crying was a contest. Makeup is running down, feelings are all around. How would I get here? I need to know. I guess I maybe had a couple expectations. Thought I'd get to them, but no I didn't. I guess I thought the prom was gonna be fun. Now I'm written on the floor and all I wanna do is run. All I wanna do is run. All I wanna do is run. Well, girlies, fam, bros, it turns out that I was not as free as I thought, and that audio that you heard was recorded about, I would say 3 weeks ago. Since then, I haven't really done anything to upload to the podcast, so that's pretty great. I think it's like, it's been a month and something now that I haven't uploaded anything. And there's a lot of things that have changed since then. I got a job. I took some volunteer work to do for Cheryl, and then, you know, school has just been really great at like kicking our butts with like stuff to do. So today is Victoria Day, and we I have basically finished everything. So I thought I could um, continue, I guess, because it's only around 20 minutes long up till now. Actually, you guys can tell me if you prefer like 30-minute episodes, because I can just cut them in half and like upload again. That's totally fine. But I'm more of the opinion that like 1 hour podcasts are the way to go. But I mean, what do I know, right? So that's why I might seem a little bit jumpy. I was also in a youth group. I was in a a video thing that they were showing yesterday on at church. Well, online church. It was like on a Zoom call, and it was talking about life in the pandemic as a student and that type of thing. Yeah, that's why I might sound like a little bit hesitant. I'm still getting back into the groove of things. I don't know. Also, this is with a new mic. I mean, it's the same mic, but it's a new mic that I bought myself, and yeah, it's the same mic, but it's this one is black. I think the other one was gray, and this one is my own mic. So yeah. So like, other things that I can update you on. Let me think. There. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I work at A&W, but most people I know that already. The people that are listening to this probably already know this, and they're actually the past two youth groups have been pretty crazy, like very in a good way. I mean, crazy in a good way, and also they announced like a summer. Frontier announced that they're going to be doing 4 1-week sessions during the summer of like leadership, discipleship type thing, and this time it's more serious. It's not like co-ed where it's more activity oriented. This time it's going to be more specific, very focused, and I'm excited for it. And I talked to my boss. Turns out I can do it. I thought I couldn't because of like the way that they schedule vacation and that type of thing, but they said it was fine. I just have to find a replacement for like a pretend shift that I would have during that week, and I would have to know when that week would be, obviously, so that I can request absence. And uh what would the other thing? I'm sorry if I'm like hesitating too much. It's not new to me anymore, but it's something that I haven't done for a while. And so, oh, actually, this was supposed to be with Lin Chun right now, but she's quite busy. So whenever she is free next, we will also do like a call with her. Um, Man, Teams quality is so bad though. Like whenever you record a call on Teams, it's the quality goes down significantly. Like, um, even if you have a good mic, it really just, oh man, it gets so grimy. The sound is just very not as clear. It's more, if sound could be blurry, that would be the description of like a Teams call. Anywho, um, yeah, so I'm really excited for camp and that type of thing. I want to go with all the girlies, but that's to be determined, I suppose. Also, like, what do you really it in a COVID situation? I'm like interested to see what they're gonna do to accommodate that. Like, because obviously we're not gonna be swimming in the pool in the lake at Frontier, so it's gonna be. And also, are they gonna make us wear like masks outside since it's a significant amount of people, even if we're outside, that type of thing. Wear masks in the bathroom in the middle of the night. You have to like put on your mask before going to the bathroom. I don't know. Um, oh, and oh my gosh, the sleep schedule at camp is just crazy. It's like you can sleep on a good night. You can sleep 6 hours, maybe even 7 on a really good night. But most of the time we like sleep 5.5 ish, probably like that, for a whole week. So when you're done, you're really dead basically. it'll be interesting to go back to work after that. That's, you know. Also, what else is there to update you guys on? There, oh well, I mean, we finished the writing exam, and I don't really know how it went. I hope it went well, but I don't think that our teacher's gonna give it to us before we get our report card. So I won't ever know what I actually got. I just know what I get on like the report card, which is, an average with the other grades that I have. So that's great. And hmm, I know that we have a science exam, but like the week long exams that we were supposed to have at the end of the year might not happen because they might have like vaccines during that time. But it's it's still up for still up in the air. So it's like, I mean, I know we're supposed to technically remember most of the things that we learned, but really, if you're asking me about science, like I know there's an exam, but I literally could not tell you anything about the exam. Like, what is courant et océan? Courant de surface, courant de I forgot even what it's called. The one in the bottom of the ocean. Like, couldn't tell you. Literally, I don't know. And then like projet météo at the beginning of the year, where it's oh, here's the how wind works and how the water cycle goes and when there's rain, and literally do not remember. I know that those things happened. I don't really know more than that. Um, oh, next up would be yeah, I'm just it's pretty wild right now at school. I feel like still doing half and half. I mean, I'm kind of hoping that they bring us back to school because, oh my gosh, gym class, the teacher's goal is to bring us to 5 kilometers, and I'm not about that life, but because we're doing frisbee in at school gym class right now, and that is so fun. Like, literally, frisbee is so underrated, for real. Like, love I love playing frisbee. And the way that it's done, every round you go back to your side and then somebody throws, and it's pretty it's not always fast because sometimes there's just like no point, but she makes us switch people every 4 minutes, I think. And so most of the time you can switch at least after you're playing twice. But sorry. Excuse me. But after playing once, sometimes you can also switch off. So that's nice. Um I think that might be a couple of the updates. If there's more, I'll like say after. I guess. Oh, and I know that this was supposed to be like childhood episode, but I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. It just happens this way, I suppose. Oh, I forgot. I also did a baptism class last Thursday with May, Nora, and Olivia. And so it's basically me and Olivia want to like have the volonté to get baptized. It's just a matter of like choosing a date and that type of thing. And I'm very excited for it actually. Although we can't do it together because I always kind of dreamed of like doing it with a friend, even though it's it's not even relevant to the discussion because the baptism is accepting Jesus Christ as your savior and the next step in your relationship and all that type of thing. But I don't know. It's kind of whatever. And there's also baptism merch. Oh my gosh. So Cheryl made baptism merch, which is because they used to use robes, but turns out they're a bit see-through for the gals, if you know what I mean. And so Cheryl made like t-shirts that you can wear when you get baptized, and you get them, which is, I mean, it's obviously nothing like extraordinary, but it's just very fun to have like a physical representation of that day. Even though the most important part is that you're getting baptized, obviously, but the other perks are kind of fun too. I think, and then so yeah, uh, I I guess I knew, but I totally forgot about this thing where Nora said that she doesn't see like the point in getting baptized, and like I understand that to a certain extent, and no hate towards Nora for thinking this way, but I think that her parents should have like taught her like more on the meaning of baptism and how it's not just that, oh, I want to do it and oh, I don't want to do it, where it's more of a a sense of like obedience to Jesus, because he did it himself when he clearly doesn't. He clearly didn't, like, he's the closest to God that anybody has ever been, obviously, because he is God. Um, and he did it as a sign to like show other people what to do, right? Because he didn't necessarily have to do it as this literal son of God slash God. Um, and I'm not saying that like Nora thinks that she's superior to Jesus or whatever. That's definitely not the case. I think that she just um, it's just, I I understand what the feeling is, but there's also that part of manifesting your faith and showing it through this baptism in front of an audience, right? In front, because I think that was part of the pamphlet of baptism, where it's it's not just for you and Jesus, it's also for other people. Well, it's mostly for like you and Jesus, but there's also a part of it that is to show to others and to like make them understand what baptism is, and like show them, I am loudly or proudly proclaiming that I am now uh, baptized. I don't know if that was very I don't know how sensical that was, but that's that's the general vibes. And also, it doesn't have to be Cheryl that baptizes us, which I guess I just assumed it would be her. And it all this class and everything has made me think a lot about what I used to think my baptism was going to be. I had thought a lot of different people would be there. I thought I would like invite some people to see it, to watch it, that type of thing. And through the years that's changed. They would no longer be a part of it because of, well, many different things, but they won't be there. And I also don't really know who I want to baptize me. It's a lot of moving parts, and obviously i I used to think it would just be like at church, but now church is online, and so it's like, do I want to do it in front of actual people, or do I want to do it online? And I feel like there's definitely a different feeling when you're in person with that person and like see them get baptized, I think. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I could do it at camp. Oh, but then how would my parents like watch that? They're not gonna. I mean, they could drive to Frontier, but that would be kind of a waste of time, in my opinion. So maybe I could do it like at youth group, but then, youth group in the summer, there's much less people. So it's like, oh, will I be making that much of an impact if I do that? And I also don't want to like talk their ears off with, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to think about. And, yeah. And I also thought that I remember when I went to pilgrim camp in, I want to say Sec 1. When we went there, a lot of them had already, like, um, it was we were going into Sec 2, like, summer before Sec 2, and they were already talking about how, like, oh, I want, I'm gonna get baptized this year, and, like, I feel pressure from my family, which I guess is because it's, like, the US, and just inherently, the US has many more Christians. Um, well, yeah, because there's actually a lot of people in Quebec that would like associate themselves with being Catholic, but that doesn't. It's like Catholic culturally, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Which like, yes, there are cultural Jewish people, but I feel like just saying, yeah, I'm Catholic but not believing in God is kind of contradictory. I don't know. So technically, I think it's like 60% of Quebecois associate themselves with Catholicism, but a very small percentage of that actually are practicing Catholics or believe in Jesus and God. So, man, I'm ranting, but like, it is what it is. I guess. I don't know if I said this already, but I mean, I wrote this a long time ago, and I still stand by it. The ways, I feel like I might have said this already on the podcast. Whatever, you can skip past it if you think you've heard it before. So this is how the principals talk down to you. Simani talks down to you like a child and as if you don't understand anything ever in the history of the world. Like, oh, it's impossible that this child could know who Shakespeare is. Which, I mean, I know some people don't actually know who Shakespeare is, which is yikes. But, most people know who the guy is. I'm putting up an example. She didn't actually say this, but the way that she talks to you is as if you're like 5 and you haven't experienced anything. And even children who are 5 years old know more than the way that she treats us, like literally. And so Vigneault talks down to you like you've perpetually done something wrong, and she's always very accusatory in the way that she says it. Like, she'll never say outright that you're stupid, but she'll definitely imply that you're stupid. She makes you feel very dumb. For example, once I went to her and I was like, "Oh, did you receive my réinscription?" Which is like, you just have to sign up for school every year, which is kind of weird because like I feel like it should just be an opting out thing where if you're leaving the school, you have to sign up again. If that makes sense, I don't know. I think that would make more sense, but whatever. And so then she was like, "Oh, did you not read my message that I sent?" Imbecile, literally. That's what she's insinuating. At least that's what it sounds like. She's like, "Did you read my message?" And I was like, "Yes, I did. I didn't understand it." She's like, "No, you didn't read my message. Because if you did, you would know, blah, blah." And I was like, "Are you gonna tell me what I know and I don't know if I've read something?" Like, um, okay. It was just so accusatory, and I didn't come in with any like bad blood. I was just like, "Oh, I didn't understand like thing," and she's like, "Oh well, did you read my message?" As if I didn't read your message, lady. I mean, she's just, oh my gosh, like always, constantly this way. Oh, although recently we were talking about like the relationship teachers and students have, because we had a meeting about how Monsieur Chevalier, the guy who said the N word, he got fired actually. He was supposed to be like in a training camp or whatever, and then he got fired, and the principals will not say why because apparently that's his private life or whatever, which, uh, mm, you know, I just, it's kind of icky. And they're like, "Oh, you know how terrible it was for this person, for the people that released this video to publicize it in this way." Which, I mean, I understand to a certain degree as it was like 2 years later, but still, I think that it was a net positive to shed light on the fact that this man, who 2 years ago still thought that it was fine to say the N word, even in, the principal said, "Oh, the context, you don't know the context." Well, I don't think it really matters, you know? Anyway, so, oh, they're also very flip floppy, I feel like. Anyway, so during that conversation, it wasn't really geared about the racism part. It was like a lot of the students expressed how there's a power imbalance between the principals, the teachers, and the students, right? There's always, whenever you want to say that a teacher did something wrong, the principal will always be on the side of the teacher. It doesn't really matter what you say, no matter how much you accuse them of something, it's your word against theirs. And the principal is obviously friends, or at least friendly, with his or her coworkers. So, you know, it'll. And also, they were like, "Oh, well, it's their private lives. If we're handling something, we won't say it." Oh, so you just want to, like, pretend like something never happened. Is that what you're saying? Because that's what it sounds like. And that's maybe why Mr. Chevalier was the first teacher, like, because he was publicly denounced, they had to make a public statement about it. And yet, the other teachers that just disappear, they never address it, they never talk about them again. Which, yes, there is a certain part of privacy, but I think that I disagree. If a student is asking about the status of a person or a teacher and what you've done with them, you should say it. You should say what you did. But the principal was like, "Oh no, we will never say what exactly we did because we want to be that elusive type of like psychopath." Basically, I mean, I'm kidding. There's obviously psychopaths have been painted in a bad light because of the serial killers who are psychopaths, but um what was I saying? Oh yeah, but it's just like, why would you do that? It's almost the same energy as in elementary school when you'd say, "Oh, I have a secret, but I'm not going to tell you." That's basically what why would you say you have a secret and then not tell me? You could just never say that you had a secret. Anyway, uh, so then, what was I trying to say about the principles? Something about the and the principle I'm talking about is the principle of Saint-Anne, like not just because the principles I was talking about before, they're the principal and adjoint of Sec 4, but the principle I'm talking about right now is of Saint-Anne, like Collège Saint-Anne. And so after that, we didn't really talk about it, but then we had history class, and Stan Mr. Morissette, obviously, and he talked about like, oh well, it's not like teachers versus students, and obviously that's not what it is. It's just that we feel that we have no power or no say in most things because the teacher's opinion always takes like le dessus or whatever. For example, in Sec 2 there was a incident with my principal, and it was honestly kind of traumatic because okay, it was with a teacher first who basically called me a thief and said we don't tolerate thieves in Saint-Anne, and she banned me from her class, which she's not allowed to do because it's not her property, literally. But yeah, and then I write like a really long detailed text about what happened that day, and my parents wrote an email to the principal attaching that like detailed thing, and literally what happened, the principal did not acquiesce or like agree to any of the things that my parents asked. My parents wanted to speak one-on-one with him, with the teachers, but instead, you know what he did? He called me in without my parents, without the other teachers, and just said, oh, I spoke to the teachers and they thought that it was nothing. They forgot about it. It was just a water bottle. And I was like, yes, exactly. It was just a water bottle. So why did the teacher call me a thief and tell me I was banned from her class? It was just a water bottle, and yet she was asserting her dominance as an adult over me, and he was just excusing that toxic behavior as if it was just another Tuesday, whatever. And then I said, well, she banned me from her class, and he said, no, she didn't mean that. But it sounded like she was meaning that when she said it. And then what else did she do? Anyway, so they never addressed it again. And my math teacher was there, and she witnessed it all because they made the other students go away. So she was the only other witness between me, the French teacher, and the math teacher. So the math teacher was there, who was my titulaire, by the way. She was supposed to be our representative of our class. And she said, I'm not going to pick sides because, well, in that sense, you've already picked a side. It means that you've picked the side of your colleague, your fellow teacher. You think that I'm crazy or whatever. And I was like, what, 13? Yeah, I was 13 at the time. And these 30-year-olds, and the principal was like, I don't know, 50 or something. All of these adults who were significantly older than me told me that I was being crazy for reacting the way that I did, even though they were being overreacting, whatever. And then I spoke to the, conseillère en whatever, this new, like, role that they attributed. I guess since they kicked Mr. Chevalier out, they got a new one. I'm kidding. Obviously, she was hired before that, but still, it was just very funny, the timing and all that. And I spoke to her about this isolated incident. I made it, like, clear that I was very, like, I'm still triggered to this day that they could do such a thing. And she said, oh, well, I saw the principal the other day and he handled an exchange very well. And I was like, okay, you saw one isolated incident of him being okay. And so suddenly all his past actions are excused? I don't see the logic here. And apparently she's supposed to be in fairness and equality. She has no sides and she's equal. But she really just said, oh, you're also being crazy. She kind of just agreed with them, saying, oh, well, he's much better now. I wouldn't know from before, but he's much better now because I saw him not one time handling a different situation totally well. But she didn't even want to hear further about my situation. I just said that I made it very, like, brief. And she just said, oh, well, he's if that's what was happening before, he's much better now. And it's like, okay, so you're minimizing what happened to me to say that at least he's better now? Just because a killer is reformed and doesn't kill anymore doesn't mean that doesn't mean that his crimes are just like suddenly erased. Oh, well, he's a better person now, so obviously everything that they've done in their lives is just fine. It's a clean slate. I think that's preposterous. Basically, it's like it's crazy how and this miss or whatever, she's supposed to be on our side, on no side actually, and yeah, and so I just think that's like wild. Um, Anyway. Oh, and they were talking about, oh, there's no diversity in the staff at Saint Anne. But, like, keep in mind, Quebec is, I think, 70 or 80% white. So, to find, like, if you want it to be according to the actual diversity of Quebec, then it's kind of accurate how, like, all of Collège Saint Anne is white, literally. Because, um, yeah, it just and usually actually immigrants or like Asians specifically, they don't go for teacher jobs because they pay less. They usually go for the higher paying jobs like doctor, engineer slash lawyer, which is the stereotype. So I don't understand how they can ask for diversity when usually Asians are the Asians, for example. I don't really know that much about like the black immigrants or the Hispanic immigrants, but like, you know, mm, so you're. I think that's really funny. It's not a diversity problem. Like diversity doesn't solve racism. It might. Yeah, it doesn't. It literally doesn't. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that. Like having more Asians in the staff. Oh well, I mean, Mr. Ung was like like the first Asian that we saw as a teacher, and anyway, like maybe you can come for me for that. Like I will not retract my statement on the fact that like asking for different nationalities in the teachers doesn't change the problem in the middle of the school. Like it's not gonna. I would say just get better teachers. They don't have to be Asian. They don't have to be black. They don't have to be Hispanic. I don't even care. Like Mr. Morissette, he's white. Is he perpetuating racism just because he's white? I don't think so. And he's a great teacher, literally. But we've had multiple teachers that are just, whatever, literally, that cannot teach. And they still stay at the school because of whatever reason. Now, that's what I would say is wrong with the school. I mean, obviously, there was like people talking about how there are lingering racist sentiments in classes. That doesn't really happen in our class because we're like half Asian, so the white people are actually the minority. Pretty funny stuff. Anyway, I wouldn't know. Literally, I would not know. And so I'm not going to comment that much on that, but like this new lady that they hired, she seems genuine-ish. Like, she's definitely not rehearsing anything or being, whatever. But I think that she thinks that she has intellectual or moral superiority over us because she is supposed to handle the culture issues in the school and supposed to be the bridge between the personnel and the kids and all this stuff. So she definitely has a certain level of intellectual superiority over us or whatever. That's the way she was speaking to me. She definitely was listening to what I was saying, but she wasn't listening. She wasn't understanding, is what I'm saying. Anywho, it's not her fault, but like, if they just keep hiring people, like, it doesn't make a difference necessarily. They have to realize that their staff is actually bad. That's the truth. It's not that they're I mean, maybe some of them are racist, but it's not the fact that they're racist. It's just that they're bad. For example, the principals that we have right now. And I would say Madame Simani is not even the worst. She might be actually on the top, how many principals have we had? We've had 8 principals, right? And I guess 9 with Dubois, who's the principal of Collège Saint-Anne. 10 including Cavanieri, but Cavanieri doesn't he doesn't really care about Saint Anne that much. He's building a new school right now, so he doesn't have time for us. I'm kidding, of course. He's probably the most normal out of them because he didn't want to be there and he was just whatever, which is how we felt about that meeting because they ended up just virtue signaling the whole time and just said like what they thought we wanted to hear, which they thought they were so brave to admit that Monsieur Chevalier wasn't coming back when really nobody cared. Like, because the way it's not about what they were supposed to say, it was about how they were supposed to come and approach it. They were coming from a place of, well, you see, we are so good as principals, so we will let you speak. We will let you voice your concerns, but only for a 10-minute period out of an hour and a half meeting, And also, the principals were speaking so slowly because they felt they were saying something very important that you had to hear, They weren't speaking in a normal, speed because they wanted you to realize how great they are for doing and making this meeting. They were saying this for the 5th time, and so they are obviously better than us in that sense. What was the next thing? So out of the 8 principles, or 10-ish, 9, let's say, without Cavanieri, the 9 principles that we had, I would say Slimani is probably number 3. That just shows you how, even though she treats us like children, she's actually better than most of the other principles we've had. And so, yeah. Yeah, that's just a rant of me on authority figures in my life. I think that because they don't actually try to connect with you, don't actually try to be your friend. They just say that they do. I would say Simani is probably friends with a good 20 students in our grade, which there's 400 students, so you do the math. It's not that she doesn't care; she just doesn't care. That's how I would describe it. Whereas Vigneault actually really doesn't like you. It's not that she doesn't care, she doesn't like you. She outright shows it in a lot of ways, I feel. And I remember Lin Shan in that conversation in history class said, oh, well, she called me really stupid, and she said, no, she didn't say she was stupid, she said, are you blind? And Lin Shan said, yes, I wear glasses because I'm blind. Literally, that's the point of glasses. And she said, well, we reconciled. I was able to become friendly with the principal. And it's like, okay, again, that's your personal experience. But the fact that she called you, she said, are you blind, is an example of how, it's just oh my gosh, can you believe she said that? And she really, and this is not just one incident, okay? There's my experience with her. There's everybody has had a similar experience with her. Well, not everybody. I'm not going to generalize. Some people have had positive experiences with her, but that's because those are people that she likes. And that's the hypocrisy in her, actually, it's probably not hypocritical because she never said that she wanted to be friends with us. But, as a principal, especially adjoint, you're supposed to try to be liked among the students. Usually, the adjoint is liked better than the regular principal. And yet, it's a yikes. And I'm gonna say, yes, Lin Chan was right in the fact that she said, oh, well, people aren't making an effort in being friends with her. Well, that's because she's not a really warm person to be around, let's be honest. Whenever you're, speaking to her, she's always like, oh, you're wasting my time. Did you even read the email I sent you? Are you blind? I mean, of course, people will not make an effort when the person on the other end is always being so, almost aggressive. Why would you say these things, she doesn't need training for racism. She needs training for manners 101. Even if we're younger than you, and even if you have authority over us, doesn't give you the right to just disrespect us all the time, Yeah. I think now I'm finally done with that. Woo! I just did that all in one shot, 20 minutes of just me straight talking, and that does feel very good, very therapeutic. Oh my gosh, I'm not done. I literally just remembered another thing. So then, I accidentally. Oh yeah, you see, Mishima, he said, made an effort. Okay, he tried to connect with us by letting us air out our frustrations. He didn't speak for like 30 minutes and then say, "Oh, what do you think about that?" He said, "Hey guys, I know that today was a weird meeting that you had, and it seems that your other teachers haven't spoken about it. So I want to hear what you have to say about it. What you guys have to say." He really passed the mic to us and let us, say whatever. And it was very, obviously he's still somewhat biased toward the teachers, so he's still gonna defend them. But in the way that he portrayed it, it was very much so he was hearing, he was understanding, and he was gonna apply that. He was gonna do something about it instead of the teachers just being like, "Ah, well, too bad for you, I guess." Haha, we're not gonna fire your teachers. We're not gonna talk to them. We're just gonna say that we're doing something when we're not doing anything. And so, Morissette actually, he's going to speak to the principals about it and say these things, which is more than we can say about any other teacher we've had. And in that sense, he also, like, I accidentally like slipped up, and when I thought that Chanel was talking about Madame Vigneault, the principal, and she was talking about the French teacher. And so I did like throw up noises, and he like saw that, and he was like, "Oh, come on, don't be mean." And I didn't mean, like, I wasn't supposed to be mean to like Madame Vigneault, the French teacher. I was thinking about the adjoint, and not that it's like, not that I'm excusing myself for doing that. It was pretty mean. It just, I just, it is what it is. And uh obviously, for the teachers and stuff, like, we will always have like our favorites and our not so favorites, and the teachers that we don't like. But it's always with reason, right? It's not just, "Oh, I don't like this teacher because they're bad." Like, there's always a reason why you don't like a certain person. And so the teacher's not realizing that and saying it's all our fault is really hypocritical. It's like, "Oh, well, we don't understand how you could ever dislike any of our staff because they're all so perfect and wonderful. Except the one that had to be, fired because he said the N-word many, many times in a row. Just that one, forget about that. That's that's just one out of all the teachers. All the other teachers are totally fine and perfect and wonderful and marvelous. And it's really your fault that you don't connect with them. It's really your fault that you're not trying so hard to be friends with them when, oh, we're not so welcoming. Well, you just have to spend more time with us, which we don't ever have time for and we don't ever try to do. But, you have to come to us to do that." You see where I'm going here? Obviously, there's a give and take. There's a part where you have to try, yes. But when all you've had are negative experiences with a certain teacher and they don't try to remedy that, then it starts getting into like, okay, so how much am I supposed to give and how much are you not giving back? Because if you give me that same energy, I'm gonna match it. And yeah, so the vibes were off on that. And obviously, I'm heavily extrapolating. They didn't say any of this because obviously they would get into a lot of trouble if they said this. But you know, it's just like, you're saying these things without actually saying them. And maybe I'm like adding a little bit of spice to it, but it's truly how they think, or how at least they think. Like, if they think totally differently than this, then they're really doing a horrible job at it. They're doing a terrible job at showing how they actually think about things. Because the exhibitionism, the way that they're showing everything, and the way that they're virtue signaling, saying that they're so great, and they're above other schools. They're above the government, actually, because oh my gosh, Madame Dubois said that she was talking with the Ministry of Education, and they were changing things, right? Because the Ministry of Education is so terrible that they had to go against that that horrible government ministry, and they were changing things in the Ministry of Education, because they're so great. They were able to overcome, and it's just like, oh my gosh, seriously. Yeah, because they were talking about how Sec 3 history, the curriculum is just bad or whatever, which, I mean, I guess so, but I didn't think it was that terrible. It was definitely very, like, summarizing, and there's a lot of things that we didn't go through that we were supposed to go through, but, we don't, it's just, we have a limited amount of history time, right? And all those types of things. And just the way that this woman portrayed how she was a hero for talking to the Ministry of Education and saying, like, wow, we're really changing things, guys. It's so, I don't know what the word for it is, but you're really putting on a show for us here, and you think that you're, yeah, so again, the superiority complex that they have, that just because they're the principals of Collège Saint-Anne, that they are principal over 2,000 students, they just suddenly have the right to start acting this way. And yeah, it just well, you see here, the Ministry of Education, our government, is so terrible that we had to step in to help you guys, to change things. It's like, oh my goodness, could you, like, dial it back just a little bit, please? And yes, I'm really ranting, and I'm criticizing them for all of their negative attributes, which maybe they're wonderful people outside of school. I don't know. I really don't know them. And I understand there's a lot of students. There's a lot of 400. There's 400 students, right? But the fact that I've had one conversation with Madame Simani, and I've had one conversation with Madame Vigneault, and that's what I've gotten from it, doesn't sound too great now, does it? Like, not that I'm saying they have to, like, high five people, which we can't really do that right now, but it doesn't mean, like, you have to learn our names, every one of our names, because that's 400 kids. I understand that, which Patrick Pouliot learned 400 names, so do with that what you will, but you have to still understand, like, still know the person, right? And get to know them just a little bit. Like, for example, oh, I remember that kid. I talked to them yesterday. They do hockey. I don't know. And, oh, that kid. I remember her because she showed me a piece of jewelry that she made. I really couldn't tell you what I expect from them, but I expect more. Better. Just do better. Yeah, I'm gonna end it on that. Do better.